My name is Miss Shay, and I'm here today with Mr. Davey. We are going to talk about a new artist, one that is brand new to both of us. Her name is Hannah Höch, and she is a German artist. Her specialty, she did painting and drawings and things like that, but she's most well known for her photograph collages. We've made collages here at FAM before, but these are going to be like a photo montage type thing. So you'll want to get some photos, if you have any photos that you can use. Perhaps that it's okay to cut them up. Those would be great. You can also use photos from magazines, anything realistic like that. So yeah, make sure you get some of those supplies. You're also going to need scissors and definitely some glue, maybe glue or a glue stick. And we will show you what her art is all about, and you can work along with Mr. Davey. So make sure you get all those supplies. Hit pause while you're doing that, and when you're ready, hit play.
Hello, it is me, Mr. Davey, and you might have noticed that both me and Miss Shay are wearing Star Wars shirts in this video. It's because we are filming this on May the 4th, so May the 4th be with you. And so that's sort of where I'm getting my inspiration today for the piece of art I'm going to make in Hannah style. But like always, because we're going to be using scissors and also potentially some pictures, make sure you get your parents' permission first, or get their help with using scissors, or if there are any pictures you might want to use, make sure your parents are okay for you to cut them up. Same thing with your magazines, make sure your parents say, okay, those are fine to cut up. We don't want you to cut up anything important. So Michelle's going to tell you more about Hannah, and I am going to do a Star Wars theme piece. And you might notice the base model is Miss Shay. She's been nice enough to allow us to use her image in this. So take us away, Miss Shay.
All right. So as I mentioned, this week's artist is Hannah Höch. She was born in 1889 in Gotha, Germany, and she lived in Berlin for pretty much most of her life through 1978. And she is one of the most important collage artists of the 20th century. She's known for political collages, photo montages, and she kind of appropriated and recombined images from, and text as well, from magazines, newspapers, all kinds of media to kind of voice her opinions or critique the popular culture and society of that time, especially how the roles of women were seen, in the society, through the early 1900s and beyond. She actually, unlike most of the artists we talk about on here, she was encouraged at a young age to make art. She was trained as a pattern maker and a professional artist, and she was very talented in the fashion industry. And as you can see in some of her works, she really drew from her interest in different textiles, patterns, textures, and things like that, and that kind of led her into her love for abstract work during that time. And when she was young, she ran into an artist that she met named Raoul Hausmann in 1917, and that is when she found her way in the Berlin Dada group, which, as you may remember, if you saw that episode or maybe you've heard of it before, Dada is a very particular art movement that was popular after World War I. The Dadaist artists could be poets, painters, playwrights, anything like that, and they kind of questioned society after the war. They challenged the traditional and the plain and made things that were silly and absurd and poked fun at, serious and modern politics and society standards. Kind of an anti-art, as they saw it, because it rejected the sensibilities of the time. So, normal things such as kind of boring things such as traditional art that looks like all the other art, using things such as logic or reason. They made art just for any reason. It was popular to be silly, especially during that time in Europe. And so she was in a group with Dadaists who, of course, were mostly male artists. and they created satire and critiques of German culture and society. She was well known. She exhibited at the first International Dada Fair in Berlin in 1920, and her photo montages received critical acclaim despite the patronizing views of her male peers. Because although she was a part of this group and her art was well loved, even in that time, even her own peers and of course art critics outside the group didn't, see her as much of an artist compared to the men. Yes, Mr. Davey?
Oh no, I was just kind of laughing at your cinnamon bun.
I do have cinnamon bun here. I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good look. And so she reflected on that. She said, most of our male colleagues continued for a long while to look upon us as charming and gifted amateurs, denying us implicitly any real professional status. So, in a plain, short way to say, men artists at the time would just go, oh, how cute. What great art, what amateur art and fine art for a woman to make. But that didn't stop her. She was very pro women's rights, and she had a very strong character and stood up for what she believed in. And she continued to make art. She would splice together photographs or photographic reproductions that she cut out from popular magazines, illustrated journals, fashion magazines, and she gave them a new context by putting them together, pasting them in different ways. Some ways that look most ways that look very abstract or odd, kind of surprising. Sometimes they looked, they could be a little scary looking, but definitely very strange, as in the Dada style. A great thing about collage, and this is a reason I really like collage, she notes that there's no limit to the materials available for pictorial collages. You can find materials in photography, but also in writing and printed matter, and even, she says waste products, but she means things like found objects, maybe a little piece of texture or a cloth, maybe burlap, different things that kind of make you think about making, a picture that maybe has some dimension, maybe even the materials you use themselves have some sort of message or importance that's relevant to the message that you're trying to make, for example. And she explored gender and identity in her work, which is popular. A lot of her popular work shows that. It may not be exactly obvious, and especially some of the pieces may be reinterpreted nowadays, especially someone, from our era, maybe your age, a little bit older, maybe not, if they didn't live in Germany or Europe in a time of after World War I, you may not know about all that context, what she was making fun of or commenting on. But there's always something you can see, something new and interpret from her collages. And she loved to laugh, and she would criticize the concept of the modern woman in 1920s Weimar Germany. And that was pretty much a woman who, she was purportedly man's equal. She would have combinations and fragments of widely circulated images of the quote-unquote modern woman and what they looked like, according to men in magazines and other media. And instead, she would use these pieces to capture the rebellious spirit of the interwar period, which kind of felt like a new age, because after the war and everything and all the dread and loss and, just general depression, kind of a new age by making this very vibrant and very loud art, having a lot to say. And so she was a radicalist. She experimented, and her arts, even today, she was questioning how we see beauty. How do we describe gender and beauty standards and other things like that? Her art would embrace identity, especially her own identity, and go against the norm. So when it came to looks and what is quote unquote acceptable or expected, she kind of turned that on its ear. She wanted to, create art that was different, that would always be surprising to the masses, and that's how she felt, that her art was successful. And although the Berlin Dada group fractured they broke apart in the early 1920s, Hannah Höch continued to create socially critical work. She she was banned from exhibiting during the Nazi regime, but she did remain in Germany during World War II, and she continued to make work in a home outside Berlin, so that she could safely do it, so that her art was not destroyed or taken away, or she was imprisoned perhaps for this such radical artwork. And in 1945, after the end of the war, she was able to have her art in exhibits again. And before her death in 1978, she was recognized for her contribution to the German avant-garde kind of work. And her art was recognized in museums, kind of like a retrospect, so you go back in time and see the changing of her art when she started and how it kind of grew and progressed and had, deeper symbolism, deeper messages, throughout her career. So fortunately, she was able to see that and get that recognition and they had her work, out in Paris and Berlin. And you can still find many of her art pieces around the world. They are very interesting to look at because, they're not prints. They are unique collages, which means they have to be very well, all art has to be very well taken care of, but because she has different types of paper, magazines, different objects on her original piece, they have to be very well kept and, cleaned and, have to maybe perhaps with things like that, using glue and all, make sure that the glue is still bound, maybe do some work on it. Sometimes, art can get kind of falling apart after so long. So yeah, and basically, if you've learned anything, Hannah Höch, her message was, and the message of Dada, is destroy tradition, destroy what you think society is, destroy what society thinks society is. And when I say destroy, I don't mean tear it all apart, but create something new, create something no one's ever seen before, create something that no one expects to see. And that is creating new arts, because the spirit of Dadaism is to create new art to replace the old art. Not something I technically agree with, but I understand the sentiment there. But, just doing something brand new, breaking free from the chains of traditional artists and all that. That doesn't mean that their work is any less important, but at that time they needed something very new and real and visceral to, make their presence known. And that is all I have for today about Hannah Höch. I thought she was a really interesting artist. You can find many more of her works online through different museums and all. The picture that Mr. Davey has printed out up top is her in her older years. She looks very serious, but she herself, if you see pictures of her when she was a younger artist, and even as she was older, she liked to poke fun. She liked to make satire. She wasn't afraid to laugh. And you can see that in a lot of her work that just, looks silly. May look scary, like I said, but also just looks very silly. All right, and Mr. Davey here is... he's
just having fun.
He's done something to me.
Yeah, just having lots of fun. Being silly with it, having fun with it.
Do you have a political message?
Down with the Empire.
Oh, okay.
As in Star Wars.
Yes.
Yes. So.
I've got Carrie Fisher's eyes.
Yeah. And mouth. And her cinnamon bun.
Yes.
And we got some other silly sort of just like Millennium Falcon, really badly drawn, a little
did you scratch
astromech. What?
Did you scratch through on the paint?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Death Star, some TIE fighters. I'll probably add some more stuff in as I go along. I want to make sure I could get Miss Shay's centerpiece glued down totally, flat before I keep adding a little bit more paint. Because I do like that she used some paint and stuff like that. But yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. tying May the 4th in there and being silly and doing collage, you know, just having a fun time with it. Because I mean, look at this. This is just, I think, one of my favorites. Just all these eyeballs as a bouquet of flowers. So I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. And this person with 4 sets of eyes, you know, Hannah was absolutely amazing. A lot of fun, very silly. The true meaning of Dadaism.
Yes.
So, like always, please post your finished projects in the comments below. We'd love to see them. And if there's an artist or a style you'd like to see us explore, please feel free to share that in the comments. And until next time, keep making art, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And may the force be with you.